I dropped out of college and gave my sister my entire college fund so she could finish her law degree after our parents died. She promised to help me go back to school someday. 10 years later, she's a successful attorney living in a mansion while I'm still working construction. When she filed a restraining order against me for harassment after I asked for help with my son's medical bills, I realized it was time to collect on some old promises. I'm Evan, 30 years old, male, and my hands won't stop trembling while I type this because they still feel like rebar, scarred and cold, even under the kitchen lamp. My sister is Lauren, 33 years old, female. When we were kids in Akron, she'd practice closing arguments at the dinner table with a hairbrush for a microphone while I stacked mashed potatoes like bricks. Mom, Diane, would laugh and clap. Dad, Rick, would say, "Our girl's going to save the world, and Ev's going to build it." That was the script we swallowed like vitamins. Lauren was the golden child without even being smug about it, at least not at first. She remembered birthdays, wrote me index card pep talks before baseball tryouts, and cried real hiccuping tears when I got cut sophomore year. But there was always this switch in her, tiny, invisible, where if you told her no, or if something hinted at not going her way, the air got knifey. I saw it during a family Scrabble game when Dad challenged one of her words. She knocked the board with the side of her hand, tiles skittering like teeth, and then she smiled too big and said, "Oops," like the word itself was an insult to her. College was supposed to be a clean, straight road. I had a scholarship package to Ohio State, a black and gold hoodie folded at the foot of my bed like a flag. Lauren had gotten into Case Western for undergrad and was laser-focused on law school. Public interest, obviously, she'd say, twirling a pen. The system needs voices. Mom kept our college funds in matching green binders with our names taped on the spine. Mine had a crinkled sticker of a sun, because I was the kid who stopped to look at cranes and clouds. Hers had neat blue label maker letters, Lauren. Then the minivan flipped on Route 8 in late October. A white cross sits there now, crooked in the gravel shoulder, plastic flowers bleached silly by the sun. The cop who came to the door held his hat to his chest and said words that sounded like distant thunder, and the house turned to paper. At the funeral, I couldn't look at the closed casket because all I could see was Mom's hands flipping between tabs in those binders like a magician. There was a number meeting after, the kind where the living turn into accountants. The life insurance was thin, the mortgage was rude. The binders went on the table between us, bright green, stupidly cheerful. Lauren stared at mine like it was a lifeboat and we'd been told there was only one. She said, "Ev, I can still finish. I can get through law school and then I'll take care of you. I swear. You can always go back later. You're so good with your hands. Construction money is decent. Give me 3 years. I'll make it right." I was 20 and shaking. She took my hand across the tabletop and pressed it to her chest like a courtroom oath. I could feel her heart and the way it ran, quick and stubborn. I said yes because I loved her and because everything else had shattered. The wind chime on the porch, a photo frame in the hallway, the stupid snow globe Lauren had brought back from DC with the Capitol in it. I remember the snow glittering in slow motion when it hit the floor and broke, like the world was mocking winter. I signed the transfer forms with the same pen Mom used to leave us notes on the fridge. The ink bled a little where my hands sweated. Lauren hugged me so tight my ribs complained. "Someday," she whispered into my hoodie. "I promise, someday." The first few years, I kept telling myself it was temporary. That someday wasn't just a word she whispered into my hoodie while the ink bled on those transfer papers. I worked construction crews from sunup to sundown, telling myself I was building something. Maybe not a career, but at least the runway for hers. Lauren called sometimes. "Evan, contracts are brutal, but I'll make it. Just hang in there." And I did. I hung in through dust storms, broken fingers, bosses who docked pay for rain delays. I missed deadlines at community college classes because I couldn't keep my eyes open after shifts. Every time Lauren said, "I'll make it right, just a little longer." Then she passed the bar. I remember driving 4 hours to Cleveland for her swearing-in ceremony. She wore a black suit that looked sharp enough to cut glass. She hugged me quick in the lobby, said, "Ev, you're the reason I'm here." For 1 second, I believed it. She introduced me to her colleagues as, "My brother, he's in construction," and something in her voice made construction sound like pity project. The years rolled. Lauren bought a townhouse, then the mansion with a fountain that looked like something out of a mob movie. I still lived in a rented two-bedroom with drywall that shed dust into my kids' cereal. She sent Christmas cards with her and her husband in matching sweaters holding champagne glasses. My son, Caleb, would point at the photos and ask, "Why don't we live like that, Dad?" I'd text Lauren, ask about her promise, and she'd send back something airy. "Of course, someday. Just wait until I make partner." Then it was, after we settle into the new house. Then, after we refinance. Someday kept getting rescheduled like a dentist appointment she didn't want to go to. The breaking point was Caleb's hospital stay. He's 9, stubborn as hell like me, but his lungs don't cooperate. Asthma turned pneumonia, and the bills stacked like bricks on my chest. I called Lauren, voice shaking, pride swallowed. "Can you help? Just this once?" She didn't just say no, she said I was harassing her. A week later, a sheriff knocked on my door with papers, a restraining order. "Harassment," it read. I sat on the couch with Caleb's inhaler in my hand and laughed so hard it turned into choking. Harassment. After I gave up my whole damn future for hers. That's when the anger stopped feeling like fire and started feeling like steel. Cold. Sharp. I realized someday was never coming. If I wanted justice, I'd have to build it myself, brick by brick, same as every wall I've ever laid, and I already knew exactly where to start. Don't forget to subscribe. The papers sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I touched them again. The sheriff had handed them to me with that stiff, professional look, like he'd already seen 100 family implosions this week and didn't need the details. Caleb had been asleep on the couch, his small chest rattling with each breath, clutching that worn-out inhaler like it was a toy. I stared at the words, "restraining order," printed in bold, and felt my skull buzz like a live wire. Lauren wasn't just saying no. She was cutting me out of her life like I was some stalker, some deranged stranger. And the worst part, the part that ate at me like rust, was how quickly she'd turned. 10 years of me breaking my back, swallowing promises, staying quiet. The first time I asked for anything, she called it harassment. I couldn't let it go. I drove by her place once just to see it up close. The mansion looked obscene, like it had grown out of the earth just to mock me. Iron gates, white columns, a 3-car garage where her husband's imported toys gleamed. Through the front window, I caught a glimpse of her at the kitchen island, swirling wine into a crystal glass, laughing at something on her phone. Caleb's hospital wristband was still in my pocket, crumpled like trash, while she giggled under pendant lights worth more than my truck. That night, I left her a voicemail. Just one sentence, voice low and shaking. "You owe me." The next day, my phone blew up. First a blocked number, her voice shrill, frantic. "Do not contact me again, Evan, or I will call the police again." Then, an email from her lawyer, polished and venomous, warning me that any further attempts at intimidation would result in criminal charges. The irony of her weaponizing the law, the very career I bled for, wasn't lost on me. But here's what she didn't count on. Once you push someone into the dirt long enough, they stop caring about staying clean. I started watching her. Not in some Hollywood thriller way, no trench coats or binoculars, but the quiet kind. I learned her routines. Monday mornings, Starbucks run before the firm. Wednesday yoga, always the same studio. Fridays, she'd come home late, tipsy, stumbling out of Ubers in heels that sank into the driveway gravel. She looked untouchable in court, but in the real world, she was sloppy. Sloppy in ways that mattered. Caleb asked me once why I was writing in a notebook late at night. I told him it was a work log, but the truth was uglier. Every page was Lauren. Times, places, patterns. I was building a blueprint, not of a house, but of her life. And somewhere in the middle of all that, the bitterness started to taste like something else. Not just rage, not just grief. It tasted like opportunity. Lauren thought the restraining order had chained me, but she'd just given me the hammer I needed to start breaking her perfect little world apart, one crack at a time. The first time I saw Lauren crack in public was outside that yoga studio. She strutted out in her perfect Lululemon gear, hair slicked back like a judge about to hand down a sentence. A reporter, just some local guy with a mic, stepped up, asking about one of her firm's high-profile cases. Instead of brushing him off with that cool, practiced smile, she snapped. "Don't ambush me like this," she barked, jabbing her finger into the lens. Her voice went sharp, shrill, the same edge I remembered from Scrabble nights when we were kids. People froze on the sidewalk. The reporter just stood there, stunned, as she turned crimson and stormed to her SUV. I watched from across the street, leaning on my truck like I was invisible. It was quick, maybe a minute tops, but it told me something important. Under pressure, she didn't just bend, she shattered. Back home, Caleb was on the couch watching cartoons when I got the idea. He glanced at me, wheezing a little, and asked, "Did Aunt Lauren say yes yet?" I didn't answer. Instead, I looked at the notebook on the counter, pages full of her routines. For the first time in years, I felt steady. Not hopeful, not angry, steady. So I tested her. One night, I left an anonymous comment under her firm's Facebook page. Funny how some people buy their success off the backs of family. Nothing threatening, nothing illegal, just bait. Within hours, her profile vanished. The whole page went dark. The next morning, she filed an amendment to the restraining order, claiming I was waging a campaign of online harassment. My lawyer, a tired public defender who barely looked up from his desk, sighed and said, "She's reaching. Don't respond." That's when it hit me. She was scared. Not of me showing up, not of Caleb's medical bills, but of exposure, of people seeing her without the polish. She wasn't defending herself from me. She was defending the story she'd built. I pushed again, smaller this time, sent a letter to her office, typed, "No return address." Just one line. "Does your husband know who paid for your law degree?" The eruption was volcanic. My phone buzzed nonstop with blocked calls. Then the texts came, rapid fire, even though she wasn't supposed to contact me. "You're sick. Stay out of my life." Followed by, "If you ruin me, I will destroy you." That last one I saved. Screenshot. Backed it up twice. Because for the first time in a decade, the balance shifted. She was reacting to me, not the other way around. And it felt damn good. What I didn't expect, though, was how quickly things would spiral out of control once other people started noticing. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. Didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Honestly, I thought maybe a handful of people would read my rant and tell me to just suck it up or be the bigger man. Instead, my phone hasn't stopped buzzing from the Reddit app. Some of y'all went full therapist on me, others went straight up vigilante mode. My favorite comment so far was, "Bro, you're not her brother anymore. You're her ghost, and ghosts haunt mansions." Whoever wrote that, you deserve a medal. Couple clarifications since people asked. Yes, I kept the restraining order papers. No, I haven't violated them. I've been careful. You can't swing a hammer for a decade without learning the importance of precision. But here's where it gets messy. Messier than I even expected. After that anonymous letter I sent to her office, Lauren lost her mind. She didn't just call me a sicko in texts, which, again, she's not supposed to be contacting me at all. She actually dragged her husband into it. This dude, Mark, investment banker type, hairline retreating faster than my savings, shows up at my job site. Middle of the damn day. I'm hauling rebar with my crew when he storms up in his pressed shirt and loafers, shouting, "You stay away from my wife, you hear me?" Whole site froze. Carlos, my foreman, looked like he was about to plant him in the gravel. Mark kept screaming, red-faced, veins bulging, while I just stood there covered in dust, holding a steel rod like a spear. Part of me wanted to laugh because the guy clearly had no idea what kind of man he was yelling at. But another part of me? It burned. Because Lauren had twisted it so hard that now even her husband, who I'm pretty sure has no clue I paid for her entire degree, thinks I'm some obsessed psycho trying to ruin their fairy tale. And here's the kicker. That text she sent me, "If you ruin me, I will destroy you," has teeth. She forwarded it to HR at my company, claiming I was threatening her safety. HR called me in, sat me down, asked me if I'd been harassing an attorney. I almost choked on the word harassing. I built her damn life out of my bones and now I'm the predator? So yeah, things are escalating faster than I thought. Some of you said I should just go nuclear. Expose her, ruin her shiny lawyer image, let everyone know the truth. And trust me, that thought's been bouncing in my head like a nail in a dryer. Because here's the truth. I'm done waiting for someday. That word is dead to me. Lauren doesn't get to play Golden Girl anymore while Caleb coughs himself to sleep in a two-bedroom apartment. If she wants war, fine. I've got the patience of a man who's laid brick after brick for 10 years, and I've been building something she doesn't even see yet. Stay tuned. The thing about construction is, you learn patience the hard way. Concrete doesn't care about your schedule. Brick doesn't care about your back giving out. You learn to wait, to time things right, because rushing just means you'll tear it all down later. That patience was all I had left, and now I was about to spend it. Lauren's firm was hosting one of those charity galas downtown, the kind with champagne fountains and rented tuxedos. I saw the flyer taped to the cafe window near the job site. Her face was on it. Lauren Collins, keynote speaker, all smiles, all polish. That flyer may as well have been an invitation. I didn't buy a ticket. I didn't need one. I still had the old photo albums, the ones from when Mom and Dad were alive. Lauren had given some interview once, waxing poetic about how she worked her way up from nothing, no family safety net. A bold-faced lie, considering my signature was the only reason she'd made it past year one of law school. So I scanned the pages of those binders Mom used to keep, the savings account slips, the college fund statements, every piece of paper with my name crossed out and hers filled in. Proof. Real, undeniable proof. I copied them at Kinko's, black and white, 100 sheets at a time. On gala night, I parked across the street in my beat-up truck, engine ticking in the cold. I watched as Cleveland's finest strutted in, dresses that could pay my rent for a year, cufflinks gleaming under the lights. And then Lauren, descending from a black car like royalty. Flashbulbs popped. She looked untouchable. Until the first stack of papers hit the pavement. I'd hired a buddy from the crew. Guy owed me a favor. He walked in through the side door like he belonged, and 5 minutes later, copies of those bank slips and fund transfers came fluttering down from the balcony like snow. People gasped, bent to pick them up. College fund transfer, Evan Collins to Lauren Collins. Line after line. My handwriting, Mom's neat labels, the truth scattered across the marble floor. And there she was, frozen at the podium, watching her, someday, promises rain down like confetti. Her voice cracked when she tried to start her speech. Mark rushed up to her, face pale, trying to usher her off stage, but the crowd was buzzing. Low, ugly, curious. Phones were out, cameras flashing. From across the street, I lit a cigarette I didn't even want, just for the burn in my throat, and watched her mansion walls sprout their first real cracks. That night, I drove home lighter than I'd felt in years. Caleb was asleep, the glow of his nightlight soft on his face. I sat beside his bed and whispered, "She doesn't get to win anymore, buddy." But I should have known better. Lauren wasn't the type to crumble quietly. No, she was the type to set fire to everything around her when cornered. And I was about to see just how far she'd go. Don't forget to subscribe. The morning after the gala, I woke up to banging on my apartment door. Not polite knocking, banging. Caleb stirred in bed, wheezing, asking if it was the landlord. I opened the door to find 2 cops standing there. One held a clipboard, the other rested his hand on his belt. "Evan Collins?" My stomach dropped. "Yeah." "You're being served. Civil suit." The papers were thick, stapled hard enough to bend the edges. Defamation. Harassment. Damages in excess of $250,000. And at the top, Lauren Collins vs. Evan Collins. I laughed, couldn't help it. A dry, cracked sound that made the younger cop frown. "Something funny, sir." "Yeah," I said, flipping through the pages. "She's suing me with money I gave her." By noon, everyone at my job site knew. HR called me in again, this time with the site manager glaring across the desk. We can't have this, Evan. We can't be associated with whatever this is. Translation: I was on thin ice. Lauren wasn't just swinging legally. She was going after my livelihood. And it didn't stop there. That evening, Caleb came home from school with a note crumpled in his backpack. I unfolded it and froze, scribbled in black marker, "Your dad's a criminal. Ask him why." Caleb's eyes were wide, scared. "Dad, am I?" His voice cracked. I hugged him so tight he squeaked. Whoever put that note in his bag, whether it was one of Lauren's people or some parent who saw her meltdown online, it didn't matter. She'd dragged my son into it. The rage wasn't fire anymore, it was floodwater, rising, heavy, unstoppable. 2 nights later, I saw her again. Not in court, not at her mansion, at my apartment building. She was in the parking lot, half drunk, mascara streaked, screaming into her phone. "He ruined me, Mark. He ruined me. I'm not going down for this." She slammed the side of her SUV with her fist, denting the door. A neighbor peeked through the blinds. She caught me watching and froze. For a second, just a second, she looked like the girl at the Scrabble table again, the one who knocked the board and smiled too big. Then she screamed, high, shrill, animal, and peeled out of the lot so fast she nearly clipped the curb. Caleb came running, barefoot, clutching his inhaler. "Was that Aunt Lauren?" I didn't answer. I just carried him inside and locked every bolt. Because I knew then, this wasn't about money anymore, or family, or even promises. Lauren was spiraling, and spiraling people don't stop until they crash, and I was done waiting to get hit. It was time to plan the final blow. Update 2. Back again. Didn't think I'd be posting this soon, but things have gone absolutely nuclear. First off, thanks to everyone who's been DMing advice. Yeah, I see you. The ones sending me case law links and telling me to document everything. Half of you sound like paralegals moonlighting as chaos gremlins, and honestly, I love it. One dude even offered to drive across state lines with a bullhorn to announce Lauren's secrets outside her mansion. Tempting, man. Tempting. So here's what's happened since my last post. Lauren filed a lawsuit. Defamation, harassment, damages for $250,000. The kicker? She's suing me with money I gave her in the first place. Tell me that's not the most twisted punchline you've ever heard. But it gets worse. She's been poisoning the well everywhere she can. HR at my job called me in, gave me the whole, "We can't be associated with this" speech. My hours have been slashed. And the worst, the part that made my hands shake while I read it, Caleb came home from school with a note stuffed in his backpack, in fat black marker. "Your dad's a criminal. Ask him why." I've never seen my boy look so scared. He held his inhaler like it was a shield and asked me if I was going to jail. That was the moment something inside me snapped. She can come after me all she wants, but dragging my kid into it? That's war. And Reddit, y'all were right about something. Lauren's mask is slipping hard. Neighbors have seen her screaming in the parking lot of my complex drunk, pounding her SUV like a lunatic. She's unraveling in real time. I caught her looking straight at me from the driver's seat before she peeled out, and it wasn't the confident attorney face. It was panic, desperation. A lot of you told me to let karma handle it, to just sit back and watch. But karma moves too slow, and my son doesn't have the luxury of waiting. I'm not playing defense anymore. I've spent 10 years breaking my back for her promises, and all it bought me was a stack of legal threats and a terrified 9-year-old. So here's where I'm at. I've got every document, every text, every voicemail. I've got witnesses. I've got proof she's not just a liar, but unstable, dangerous, unfit to stand in front of a courtroom with a straight face. And I've got a plan that's going to take the one thing she values most, her image, and grind it into dust. Lauren wanted to destroy me. She forgot I was the one who built her. Stay tuned. The end's coming. Don't forget to subscribe. I didn't go after Lauren with fists or fire. That would have been too easy, too quick. No, her prison was going to be made of her own words, her own history. I started with the documents. Every bank slip, every transfer, every page from Mom's green binder, scanned, cataloged, uploaded. But it wasn't enough to just have proof. Proof doesn't sting unless people see it. So I packaged it, a neat PDF titled, "The Price of a Law Degree." Inside, every receipt, every signature side by side with Lauren's glowing press clippings about how she'd worked her way up alone. Next came the delivery system. Her firm had a "Proud of Our Partners" section on their website. I emailed the file to every listed contact, from senior partners to junior associates. Subject line: "Thought you'd want to know what you're investing in." By lunch, I knew it had landed. A buddy from the union called, breathless, telling me people were passing it around downtown like it was gossip gospel. Clients, colleagues, even a local reporter who'd covered the gala last week. But that was just step one. Step two was personal. I printed hundreds of copies, cheap ink, black and white, the kind that smudges on your fingers, and drove out to Lauren's perfect little cul-de-sac. Mark's Mercedes sat in the driveway, gleaming like a trophy. I rolled down my window and tossed stacks into every mailbox, every porch, every windshield on that block. By the time I circled back, a half-dozen neighbors were already outside holding the papers, pointing at the mansion, whispering. Lauren's fortress wasn't a mansion anymore. It was a fishbowl. That evening, she cracked. I know because I was there. I parked across the street, engine off, lights low, and watched her storm out of the house in bare feet, hair wild, screaming at Mark. Her voice carried across the yard. "It's lies. All of it. He's sick. He's obsessed." Mark held one of the papers in his hand, shaking his head, jaw tight. He didn't look like a husband anymore. He looked like a man who just realized the woman he married was built on sand. Lauren spotted me through the dark, and for a second our eyes locked. She went quiet, lips trembling, chest heaving. Then she let out this piercing scream, not words, just raw sound, and hurled a wine glass at the driveway. It shattered, red spilling across the concrete like blood. Neighbors were filming. I could see the glow of phones catching every second. I didn't move. Didn't smile. Just sat there in my truck, watching her burn down her own life, piece by piece. For the first time in a decade, I didn't feel like the kid who got robbed. I felt like the man who built the trap and waited patiently while she stepped straight into it. And yet, deep down, I knew she wasn't finished. People like Lauren don't go down quietly. They drag everyone with them. And she still had one card left to play. Lauren's final card came 2 nights later. It was past midnight when the pounding started, harder than the cops, louder than any knock I'd heard. Caleb shot upright in bed, clutching his inhaler. I grabbed a wrench from under the sink before opening the door. It was Lauren. Barefoot, hair tangled, mascara streaked like war paint. She looked less like an attorney and more like someone dragged out of a storm. "You ruined me," she screamed, spit catching on the porch light. "You think you can destroy me? I made you nothing, Evan. Nothing." Her voice echoed down the hallway, doors creaking open, neighbors peeking out. Caleb whimpered behind me, asking, "Dad, what's happening?" I stepped outside, wrench in hand, shutting the door behind me. "Go home, Lauren." But she didn't. She lunged, shoving me in the chest, nails raking across my shirt. "You stole everything from me. You're jealous. You're a parasite. I'll make sure they take your son away, do you hear me? I'll make sure he never sees you again." That was the moment. Not the lawsuit, not the restraining order, not even the note in Caleb's backpack. This, threatening to take my son. That was the knife she finally tried to twist. I didn't hit her. Didn't even raise the wrench. I didn't have to. Because half the building was in the hallway by then, phones out, filming the whole spectacle. The once golden attorney, barefoot and screaming, clawing at her brother's shirt while neighbors whispered her name like gossip on fire. Sirens cut through the night. Someone had already called 911. The cops pulled up, lights bouncing off the walls. One officer tried to calm her, but Lauren was thrashing, screaming at me, at them, at anyone who looked at her. "He's lying. He's obsessed with me. He's dangerous." But when they asked her husband's name and number, she froze. Because Mark wasn't coming. He'd left. I knew it before she did. The way her face drained, the way her voice cracked into silence. They cuffed her gently, like you would a wild animal, and loaded her into the back of the cruiser. She kept her eyes on me the whole time, wide, wet, furious. I didn't smile. I just stood there, wrench at my side, neighbors whispering, cameras rolling. By morning, the videos were everywhere. Not just the documents anymore. Not just whispers. Actual footage of Lauren Collins, high-profile attorney, keynote speaker, screaming barefoot in a hallway, threatening her brother and his kid. The firm cut ties by noon. Clients dropped. Reporters called it a tragic spiral. Mark filed for divorce a week later. And me? I took Caleb to the park. He ran in the grass, laughing between wheezes, chasing a kite we bought with the little money I had left. For once, I didn't feel bitter, didn't feel robbed. I felt done. Lauren had promised me someday. But someday was never hers to give. I had built her life, and when she tried to bury mine, I tore hers down brick by brick. Watching Caleb's kite tug against the string, I realized I wasn't the one in chains anymore. She was. And she'd spend the rest of her life trapped in the ruins of the promises she broke.